Hello everyone and welcome to the Kootneeti's YouTube channel. I am Niranjan Marjani. Today we are going to talk about Afghanistan. The sudden takeover of Afghanistan by the Taliban has thrown the country into turmoil and has raised security concerns for South and Central Asia. To tell us more about that, we have with us Ms. Mursal Noorzai. She is an Afghan activist based in Germany. Ms. Mursal Noorzai, welcome to the Kootneeti.
Thank you so much for having me, Niranjan.
Yeah, thank you. Let me start by asking as to what the actual situation on the ground is in Afghanistan, especially with respect to safety and security of the people there.
Safety and security are two very difficult questions, right? Two difficult words to describe what does that really mean for the rest of the world and what that means in Afghanistan at this point of time. Yes. You probably have been following the news and seeing the uncertain situation right now in Afghanistan. Let me put it this way. Afghanistan always had certain uncertainties, starting from 1960s, 1970s. However, those wars or uncertainties were rather tribal and they were regional, and they didn't go to that extreme. Whereas after the Soviet Union lost the war against US in Afghanistan, the uncertainty started by the invasion or by the establishment of Afghanistan, by the establishment of Taliban in Afghanistan, alongside with the critical situation that they had with Mujahideen, the people of the normal fighters of, or let's say the regional fighters of Afghanistan. So if I say safety and security, there is no safety and security in Afghanistan at this point of time. Unfortunately, because of that, many innocent children, women, and human are being killed. So at this point of time, it's I hope that the security and safety will come to Afghanistan, because it's heartbreaking to see people dying, people who have nothing to do with the war, and it's all the war of power. It's a war of power, and people are hiding behind religion, and they're trying to win the war and have the power by portraying that they want to enforce certain religion. They want to protect human, they want to protect children, they want to protect, give women rights by enforcing a very false religion, which how many Muslims are around the globe? 1.8 billion, right? Which yes. Probably only handful of those probably believe in what Taliban and the extremist groups are following and saying.
And is there really any difference between the previous Taliban regime and this one? Because there have been some efforts to create a perception to that effect. That the Taliban.
Well, I think Niranjan, Taliban has always represented a radical interpretation of Islam, right? If you put it this way, and the majority of Muslims, as I said, do not agree in what they are seeing and what they are promising, and they are promising that they are the new version of Taliban, because. But I must say, I do not feel a distinction between a difference between the Taliban now and Taliban between 1996 and 2001, because back then Taliban were rather showing and doing how should I tell you this? They were rather showing that their power by force, their power by killing people openly, their power by completely ignoring the human rights, whereas this version of them are also doing similar things, but they have become more political. They're playing it and they're portraying it that, you know, they have changed. We can see the change within Kabul, which is this, which is the the center of all the, you know, everyone, all the international countries, everyone is looking into Kabul, what's happening in Kabul. The means of communications are better in Kabul. But what's happening in provinces like or other regions, let's say Kandahar, Kunduz, what's happening in Panjshir. So we can see how they are trying to politically be correct, because they are now they are born into a promise that they have had this negotiations between US and other countries, and they have promised that they have changed. But and if you ask me as a normal, if I think as a normal human being, and if I think as a normal Afghan, and being the voice of, you know, millions of Afghans around the globe, I do not think so that they have changed. I know that they have made these promises, and if they have taken a different, and if they think that they have changed, and if they think that they are here to really do something good for the people of Afghanistan, which I don't think so, they could have done it in a different way. They could have come in a more human way, and, you know, via dialogues and via political in a very ethical way, and they probably have gotten a place, right? But what people have seen and witnessed during 1996 and 2001, and even after that, you know, they have exploded hospitals. There were explosions in schools, and then they killed so many people around in Afghanistan in different regions. So it's very difficult to accept and to trust them. Again, this is not only what it looks like. It seems that there are other interests behind bringing Taliban back in Afghanistan, whether it's the involvement of ISI. So first of all, my question is that how come Taliban got so much power for the last couple of years when they were abandoned, right? So how come they have got so much power? And I was looking at some numbers, and if I'm not mistaken, they were in 2018, BBC released a report on Taliban, and said that Taliban worth $1.5 billion per annum. And, you know, and so who are the investors? Who are, you know, financing them? Where were they getting their resources? Where were they based? Because if you look at Obama, if you look at who was the other president, Trump, and now Joe Biden, in the very beginning, they were all saying that the war against extremist Al-Qaeda and Taliban are under control in Afghanistan, and we have destroyed them, and it doesn't exist anymore, or they exist less. So then you see a certain uncertainties there. It's like, it doesn't match. If they were abandoned, where is this power coming from, right? Where were they all these years? Who provided them? Then secondly, how certain countries, like, how can you give them, first of all, a place on the table for negotiating? So this is, you know, you're calling them extremists, you're calling them terrorists, and then suddenly they become a place on the table to negotiate. You know, you negotiate with a partner. You know, you negotiate with your allies probably, but you don't negotiate with terrorists, right? So and then you see that I was looking at this report 3-4 months ago, that China is very much interested in investing in Afghanistan. In 2000, sorry, when the Soviet Union was there, The geologists mentioned back then that Afghanistan had a worth of $1 trillion in the back then, right? Of minerals and other stones, etc.
Yes.
At this time, in which year we are, 2021, only 20% of the land or the country has been discovered, or let's say the minerals have been discovered. And at this point of time, $3 trillion worth of minerals have been discovered, which is the 20%, right? So you can see, if I say there is an economical interest, that won't be wrong, right? If we see that there will be, look, there is a saying about Afghanistan that Afghanistan is the enemy of its geography, and that's right. And then you can see that I saw this report where China is saying they want to do investments in Afghanistan, and at the same time, US is withdrawing, and at the same time, ISI, or you hear statements from Imran Khan that he is talking in favor of Taliban.
Right.
And then you're seeing that ISI head is in Afghanistan now. Faiz Imran or whatever, Hamid is his name.
Yes.
And then within the first 48 hours, I think, China, Russia, Pakistan, what they accepted, they have recognized Taliban, right?
Yeah.
So there's a whole scenario, there's a whole picture, and we cannot see at once. And I'm not saying that Afghan government has not made mistakes. Yes, they have made mistakes. And there were corruptions, and this is one of the very unfortunate points, or one of the very unfortunate scenarios, that the last 20 years were taken for granted. And the last 20 years, if the heads of the country could have avoided the corruption and had a better control over the whole system, they could have prevented what is happening today. They could have prevented and predicted the interpretation and the interest of the non-ethical interest of certain organizations, people, countries. So and if definitely, probably you have read about Afghanistan, and Afghanistan is a broad country with different ethnicities, right?
Right.
And people have different beliefs, different cultures within the same country, and I'm sure India is not any different, right? There's so many languages being spoken, different cultures within the country, and we do have a very centralized government, where the country, I don't know whether it's fortunate or unfortunate, but the country has a centralized government. But we cannot forget that there are other cities and provinces and not capitals, but bigger cities that also require development, control, education, hospitals, resources, attention, right? So while concentrating in Kabul, you cannot forget about the whole country. So if we say that no, the government was, the state was very stable, no, they were not. There were corruptions. There were things that they could have protected and prevented the country from where it is right now. But yeah.
And like you spoke about the centralized system of government, and other provinces were not given as much attention. So even now there is talk about a rift within the Taliban as regards to power sharing or forming the government. So how are they going to go ahead with it? And in such a scenario, how much impact would Pakistan or China can have on the Taliban, or for that matter, in Afghanistan?
So see, the Talibans are not a homogeneous group, right? Nor they are orderly army, but they have been trained to fight, and they have been trained for this war since decades, right? So there will be a continuity in the war, and unfortunately in the clashes and the attacks. And during all this, unfortunately, innocent people will die. There will be genocides. Right now what's happening in Panjshir is a complete genocide, because this is the only valley, or this is the only district that has remained constant, and which has remained stable, or at least until now. So many people, so many strong leaders have died since yesterday, and from Panjshir, and it doesn't look good. It doesn't look good because Taliban, after winning, and I hope they will not, but with the drones and with the helicopter attacks, it will not go anywhere else, but rather than Taliban will win the war. There are differences now, as I said. Taliban, Al Qaeda, ISK, Haqqani group, and who else did I forget? The Mullah brother. So they run under this one person with their own agendas. Now, of course, Afghanistan is like presented on a silver platter to them, right? So it's a gift for them. It's a land full of minerals and full of opium. 90% globally, opium is exported from Afghanistan. So 90% of opium worldwide being exported from Afghanistan. For how much billion dollar earning is this, right, per year? And this is given to Afghanistan, to Taliban. Now these groups are fighting with each other because they know that how important it is to lead this country for their own propagandas, for their own agendas and interests, of course. So they have their differences, and the reason, I think 2 or 3 days ago, they had to announce their so-called Islamic State Afghanistan, or what they call it, Islamic Emirates of Afghanistan.
The government?
So Taliban had to announce that, I think 2-3 days ago, which they postponed it.
Yes.
Because after the arrival of ISI chief. So it's difficult, and there will be more wars. And so once they will, the topic of Panjshir will close, we will see them fighting with each other.
We'll see more fighting, you are saying?
Yes, we will see more fights. We will see now war of dispute on leadership between these groups, right? Because I'm very sure, and a lot of people, when I speak with them, and they are experts, and I call myself always a student of law, and a student of someone who wants to analyze these situations. We have been grown up listening to the history of our country, and I'm grown up in Islamabad. I have seen both sides, and I can compare them. There is never a better teacher than the reality of life, the practical reality of life. So when you lived through the the whole process, then you know how to compare them to see. And we know that this has not only impact Afghanistan, probably now, yes, but it has a huge impact on the whole globe. It has a huge impact on the other countries. It's Afghanistan. And this is my interpretation, and I might be wrong, and I hope I'm wrong, that it will impact Kashmir, the matter of Kashmir in India. It will go towards, once Pakistan will take over Afghanistan, and I do not differentiate between any extremist groups and those people who support extremism. If you are a supporter of extremism, you are an extremist. There is alone the thought of it, that you're fine with innocent people being killed, is inhuman, right? So I have this feeling that it will go towards Kashmir, and I have this feeling that China will be at the backstage and be the employer for the people in the country. There will be different projects will start according to the journal that I was reading, whether it's railway or whether it's, I don't know, mining, etc., etc. So China being the employer, Pakistan being the driver of the whole project. It's dangerous. And if it would have been done in a different way, in a more democratic way, in a way where people would have not been killed, in a way where Afghanistan would have still had its government and its president and its laws and regulations were on place, and even if they were corrupt, but people were fine. But people were still going to schools, universities, hospitals, working. They were working. People were at least not living in this fear and uncertainty. If there was no check and balance, but at least people were not terrorized mentally. You see the picture of people that I'm getting, the videos that I'm getting. It's heartbreaking. It's heartbreaking to see that US attacked a house with the assumption that an ISK leader is there. You probably have seen that video. Yes. But then it ends up killing 4 or 5 children.
Yes. Yes.
And the gentleman of the house, who was one of the translators, or he was working at least with the US troops, helping them throughout, Mm-hmm. So I saw the video of their female who are left behind now without the whole family. Their kids are being killed, and at the end of the day, you hear US saying that it's a collateral damage. That hurts. Because how can you even use a word like that for innocent people? People have become just numbers. Numbers. If you're not known, if you're not famous, if you're not earning certain, have certain income, you're just a number. You're just another person who is in this row, and who will be killed when your number is there.
Well, certainly the geopolitical complexities, they look like they are going to increase in the coming days. But we do hope that situation improves. Ms. Mursal Noorzai, thank you for your time and for speaking to the Kootneeti. We hope you found this interview informative and insightful. You can tell us what you think in the comment section below, and please subscribe to our YouTube channel. You can also follow us on Facebook and Twitter, the details of which are on your screen. Thanks for watching.